Welcome to the City. I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And joining us for the full episode today is one of our City Council members, our newest City Council member, the District 4 Representative, Lucy Gonzales. Councilwoman, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, for those who may not have met you or don't know anything about you, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewing audience, tell them whatever it is you'd like them to know about yourself.
Well, I was raised in El Dorado. I have lived and worked in San Angelo for over 30 years. I have a degree in criminal justice. I was employed by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Parole Division for over 26 years. I am married to Gilbert Gonzales. I have a daughter, Brooke Sanchez, a stepdaughter, Holly Gonzales. Both girls graduated from the San Angelo School District. I'm a member of the Paul Ann Baptist Church, and I have been retired for over 3 years.
And recently, you ran for the City Council and you won. What motivated you to run for the District 4 seat?
This was something that was put in my heart to do. I had worked for the community for a very long time, and then I was going to have the opportunity to actually serve. And to me, that was going to be a big honor to not only serve the city, but also my district. So that was something that I was excited to do.
And I'm assuming because you were a state employee, a government employee, that you felt maybe a little pulled to that since it was something that you were sort of familiar with.
Yes, I was familiar with working with the community, and also, like I said, now I was going to be on the other side and serve the community.
So you've been serving since May. What has struck you so far about City Council service?
Actually, it's been the what's going on in the background, how much work you have to do. The staff has a lot of work to do. They do a lot of research before they bring an item to the council. That's mainly one of the things that I've noticed.
And what would be, might you say, the biggest surprise about serving on the council, something you perhaps didn't expect?
My biggest surprise was how long it takes projects to come to completion. We vote on them, and it takes years to see them completed, and that was surprising to me.
So it's maybe been a little different than what your expectations were of the job thus far.
Well, really my only expectation I had was to come in and learn. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm learning so I can better serve my constituents.
So as you know, the City Council a couple of years ago adopted 5 priorities, and I wanted to talk about each one of those with you, starting with streets. From what you've seen and from what you've learned, what's your assessment of how the city approaches street maintenance and street improvements?
Well, we have that study, the street study that is in place. It should be completed this month, and that study will show the condition that our streets are in. It will let us know whether they're in need of seal coating, asphalt overlay, or reconstruction. And once the funding is in place, we'll be able to proceed with this project. The seal coating is currently going on, so I see anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks for that being completed.
And the financing you mentioned, of course, that's going to be the big challenge. Talk a little bit about that, because I don't know that people fully have a grasp of how large of an investment that's going to have to be.
Yes, well, reconstruction is going to be the most expensive. And with that, I see the funding come in through certificates of obligation.
Which are a tool for financing debt.
Yes, sir.
And so when you're talking with your constituents, do they talk with you a lot about streets and the condition of streets in San Angelo?
Yes, when I was campaigning, that was the main concern, that the streets have been like this for a very long time. So I think at this point, they're very excited to see something going on.
Is there a particular street in your district that people regard, or maybe that you regard as a high priority?
Yes, of course, Bell Street's on everybody's radar. That is a street that is in very much need of repair. But I would like to see the MLK Street be a priority also.
And in regards to streets, do you see a timetable for when we might see some of that reconstruction beginning?
Well, like I said, once the funding is in place, will we be able to proceed? And because of the process that it involves, I would see anywhere between 3 to 5 years.
You mentioned about the seal coating going on, and as we're taping this, that is occurring, and it should be finished probably by the time this airs on television. But how much of a difference do you anticipate that making in regards to the condition of our streets?
I see it making a tremendous difference. The fact that it'll protect our streets and it's going to reduce the future costs for the city.
And that puts us now on an 8-year rotation of street maintenance for every street in the city. Are you satisfied with that turnaround?
Yes, sir, I am. At this point, I think it's going to help us in any direction that the 8-year rotation. I believe it's going to help us a lot just to see something going on. I mean, the fact that our streets are being maintained.
I know you fielded a lot of questions and comments and calls about garbage collection, as have all of our city council members. The garbage contract was negotiated and improved last summer, well before you joined the council. So it would be interesting to hear your perspective on if you think the city got a good deal in its garbage collection contract.
I believe that they did. I believe that the council did the best what was for the city. They had the 2 contracts. They chose the contract that had more to offer. They looked at it as the Republic came in and eliminated a deficit that the city had with the landfill. They brought in the new service, the recycling, which is going to extend the life of the landfill. So I feel that they did the best that they had before them.
When you talk to your constituents about trash collection, what are the concerns that they are mostly raising?
They're going about it as they are wanting their trash to be picked up in the alley. That is the main complaint, that why can't these trucks still go in our alleys? Republic has told them that there's too much liability in taking the trucks towards the alleys because of the fences, or there's not enough room for the garbage cans to get picked up. Things like that is what their main complaint, is not having them picked up in the alley.
And when you explain those sort of things to them, are they generally satisfied, or is there just going to be an agreement to disagree there?
Like I'm saying, it's to the point that they know that now we're doing the curbside, but in reality, when there's change, it's not automatic. It's going to take time, and some people just do not do well with change. So it's going to be something that some of our people in our city will still be saying, "Hey, I don't understand why it cannot be picked up in the alley."
I know that in the Paul Ann neighborhood, for instance, there's always been curbside collection of trash. I'm curious, are those residents, are they sort of wondering, hey, what's the big deal about this? We've always done it this way.
Well, now the curbside was further down in Paul Ann, not in my area. So we weren't paying attention to what was going on over there. So they're used to that, but we weren't. My neighborhood, we have some older people that live there that have been there for 30 years plus, and to them, they are definitely I don't understand why we can't just have it there. And to them, it's a real inconvenience to picking it up in the front. The main complaint is, hey, where do we put these? Where do we store them? Where can we, not everybody has a place to put them. And that's another thing that they complain about a lot.
The city council just recently approved an ordinance that requires people remove their bins by noon the day after they have been emptied. Why did you feel that was important to do that?
I felt that was important because there's a lot of around San Angelo where the streets are narrow, and the sense of that it could cause accidents. I believe that at a certain time they do need to be put back where you have brought them from. Not only that, but looking down my street, I like to see that we're there. They're going to be picked up today, and by noon tomorrow when I drive in, everything is off the street. It just makes it look nicer. Of course, we do have the eyesore of seeing them on the side or in the front or whatever, but they're not in the street, and it's not to where it's going to be dangerous for people to drive.
How would you assess the level of service that Republic Services is providing at this point?
Well, it's a learning curve for them, and it's a period of transition, and they're still talking with the customers.
How do you think it can be better?
I I really think that Republic needs to have their drivers learn the routes, because when at this point they don't know the routes and they're missing a street over, and when they miss the street over, the customer has to call Republic, say my trash wasn't picked up, I need them to come back. That's very time consuming. They'll need to get onto a regular schedule to where the customers will know, hey, between these hours, I know that my trash will be picked up. And the other thing is, I think they need to be consistent with the customers.
And do you have any level of confidence that those things will occur?
I do. I believe that in time, everything is going to fall in place. But right now, like I said, it's something that's the transition period of us getting used to the curbside and them getting used to doing a different way of picking up.
Now, you've mentioned to me that you're a big fan of curbside recycling. Why is that?
I am, because I never recycled before. I never even thought about recycling. And now that the service is in place, I find myself having more in the recycling bin than I do in my trash bin. And I think, oh, this is great, because I'm doing something great for the community. I'm keeping the earth green, and that's a good thing.
And water, of course, is also a priority. Earlier this month or last month, the City Council met with the Water Advisory Board to talk about water rates. Do you anticipate water rates increasing?
Unfortunately, yes, because it's such a precious commodity that we are in need of securing. It's also very expensive. And we're going to do the best that we can for our citizens. And at this moment, this was just presented to us. Nothing has been decided.
We're talking with District 4 Councilwoman Lucy Gonzales, and we'll be back right after this.
As the City of San Angelo's Water Quality Superintendent, Tim Combest talks a lot about the critical need to conserve water. It's not just talk. For more than 6 months now, Combest has lived entirely off of rainwater, harvested through a sophisticated system he had installed as he built his home in Southwest San Angelo.
I use the water for everything in the house. There's not a fountain here, even on the outside, or a faucet even on the outside, that's not connected. So for me to change to city water, I shut this valve, move this hose over to this valve, and open it, and that changes to city water. And what that does, it gives me a complete disconnect from city water to rainwater, so there's no way there can be a cross connection.
As drought continues to loom over much of Texas, interest in and the practice of rainwater harvesting has grown. Combest's home has enough capacity to store about 42,000 gallons of water. That's in excess of 3 times the amount of water he needs for himself.
There's so much more water you can use from harvesting rain for your yards, for your foundations, drinking water if you want to go that far. I think in San Angelo, with the growth we have coming in and the really limited water sources we have, rainwater harvesting makes a lot more sense here than it ever did before.
Combest understands many homeowners are intimidated by the price and the complexity of harvesting rainwater. He stresses the process is relatively easy and help is available in San Angelo.
The technology is pretty straightforward. There's companies now in town that will even come out, put the gutters in, set the tanks, hook it up for you. So it's not really hard to get into it. And some people may want to just go buy a 100-gallon rain barrel and just catch maybe drinking water instead of buying cases of bottled water. That's a good way to avoid having to do that.
Rainwater harvesting is an obvious passion for Combest. In fact, one of his goals for the City of San Angelo this year is to launch a rainwater harvesting initiative, with the city leading by example with its own buildings.
We want to look at some of our city buildings and where we can harvest water off of those. I know Southside Rec Camp is doing that now. I keep looking at the big Hickory groundwater plant. It has a huge metal roof that already has gutters, so that's kind of what got me interested in that.
For SATV, I'm Brian Groves.
Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation with Lucy Gonzales. She is the District 4 representative on the City Council. So before the break, we were talking about water and water rates, and I know this isn't the first time that you've heard this, but people will say, the city asked us to conserve water, and now they're going to turn around and charge us more for it because the water utility is not generating the revenue it needs to operate. When you hear that from citizens, how do you respond to them?
Well, first of all, I'll let them know that, yes, we did what we were supposed to, but yet in the same sense, they didn't sell enough water for us to have enough revenues, and without that, we cannot do water projects for the future, and that is something that we're going to need. We're going to need to have those projects in place, and that's going to cost us money.
It's going to cost a lot of money, and
Yes.
you know, one of the things that we're looking at is a wastewater reuse plant, which is estimated to cost about $136 million, and then potentially recapturing stormwater from the Red Arroyo, which is expected to cost a minimum of $20 million. So when you look at those sort of projects, what's your assessment of those projects?
I'm open to both projects, and at the same time, we need to see which one is going to be more cost-effective and which one's going to be a greater benefit for the city.
And of course, both of those are meant to increase the city's water supply. What do you make of the city's efforts to try to grow its water assets?
We are doing, like I said, we're doing the best that we can. We are looking into other projects. We look for other resources that are least expensive. We work with the West Texas Water Partnership for long-term water supply.
Would you like to see a push potentially to revamp the city's water conservation plan in order to incentivize conservation a bit more?
Yes, I would, but at the same time, we have to have a balance between supplying enough water for our citizens, having enough, and at the same time, we need to encourage them to continue to conserve water.
When you talk with constituents about water rates, and you mentioned the fact that we've got these multi-million-dollar water source developments projects going on, and of course there's always an ongoing need to replace water mains, and the water utility is not financially sustainable at the moment. When you explain it in these terms, do they generally understand at that point, or is there still some confusion about why we're raising rates?
I believe that some people are aware of this. Again, some people are not. They're more concerned with right now. Why do we have to pay right now? And I try to explain that this is the process that it takes. We have to get started now in order to where 5 years down the road, when if we get another drought and we are in need of water again like we were years ago, we're going to have this already going. We're being proactive. We're going to have something ready to help us, instead of saying, okay, we don't have the money now, we can't raise it. 5 years down the road, we're found that we don't have water. And then we'll have the citizens going, what do you mean we don't have water? So I believe that it's very important that we let them know we're working for the future. We're working to where this does come up and we might not have the water, that we could only maybe have water for 2 years. We're going to be ready to go, that we're going to have plenty of water for our growth.
The water rate consultant that the city has hired has proposed a 5-year plan for incrementally increasing rates. But the first year would be a pretty big jump under his proposal, which would be about a 20% increase in water rates. Is that concerning for you, having a jump of that much initially?
It is, and I'm sure it is for the rest of the citizens of San Angelo. I believe that if we can work with them, or they can go back and possibly change that not to be such a big percentage, they'll be more likely to know that we are working for them, that we are trying to do the best that we can for the citizens, that instead of this jump, it was just this much. Something that we can still keep to where it's going to make a difference, but not that big of a difference for our citizens.
The City Council also recently approved the property tax rate for the coming year. For the third straight year, it will be 77.6 cents. Why did you think that was a good move financially, to maintain that rate, generate a little bit more revenue, and use that revenue in order to address needs such as city employee pay?
Well, we're in need of we have a lot of issues. We are in need of good streets. We're in need of enough water. The employees are in need of a raise because in comparison to our sister cities, we're not there yet. And that's something that we're working towards. So that is something that's a work in progress that we're hoping to accomplish.
As we tape this, just yesterday, you approved employee pay raises, and so our firefighters will get 6.26%, same as police officers. Our civilian employees will get approximately 5.1%. Why did you think that was the best approach?
I believe that the fire department was also entitled to the same raise as the police department, but it doesn't mean that the citizens or the employees, not state employees, the county employees weren't in need of the same rate of the raise of 5.5. It was just that something that we had to decide, and with the budget the way it was approved, that was what we came up with. And I hope that next year it will be different, that we will be able to give the county employee or the city employees a raise to where they are going to be in more, we're going to get closer to that goal of comparison to the sister cities.
Talk about a police station here for a moment. Of course, that's one of the other priorities as a new station for the San Angelo Police Department. What do you anticipate is going to happen with that in the coming year, and what might you expect the timetable to be?
Well, we've secured the building for the police department, and now the next step is a bond election where the voters will vote to see how much they're wanting to finance this project for. The studies will need to be done before the construction can get started. So with there being that much study that has to go into it, I anticipate anywhere between 3 and 5 years.
And some of the costs are as much as $25 million for a new police station. Is that a level, does your gut tell you that that's something that the voters would approve to support the San Angelo Police Department?
I believe that they will. I believe that that as a community, we realize that we are in need of a new police department. So I believe that the majority will want to help with this project continuing.
Speaking of the SAPD, one of the proposed city charter changes that will be on the November 3rd ballot is a move from an elected police chief to an appointed police chief. Wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I support appointed. I am wanting, when I went to thinking about which way I was going to go, and I went with appointment, I feel that that's when you get the best and most qualified professional. And with appointed comes consistency and stability and accountability. So those are good things to look at.
And there has also been some discussion on the city council about if we move to an appointed system, would the current police chief, Tim Vasquez, then be the first appointee into that position? What are your thoughts on that?
That was what we talked about at the council meeting, and that's what we proposed. I think that that is pretty transparent for the citizens to know that if they're going to vote, elect, or appoint, this is where we're going, this is what we're headed. So they will know that he was going to be our first appointee.
Other charter changes would directly impact the city council, and a couple of those are extending city council terms from 2 years, where they are currently, to 4 years, and then limiting terms to 8 consecutive years of service. What are your thoughts on both of those proposals?
Well, maybe in newly elected, 2 years is a very short period. I think time goes by real fast. 4 years I'm in favor of, because not only do you come in here and learn what it really takes, the job, you'll also get experience. And that experience is going to come in very well if you choose to run again. And I believe also that the 8-year, the 2 4-year terms consecutive is also a good thing, because that'll give you enough time to where that when you come in, you have set goals, you have set projects that you may be able to see come to completion. Also, the fact that you will also be able to, after the 8 years, someone else with a new, fresh set of eyes will come in with new ideas, with open minds, and benefit the city. So I think it's a good thing.
And as a new member, of course, you're still very much on the learning curve. How long do you anticipate that learning curve will take for you or for most anybody who joins the council?
I would probably say a good year, because sitting on the council, there's a lot of things that go on that you need to learn. And when somebody comes in, it's not like all of a sudden you're going to know this. It's like any job. It takes time to learn it and how it's handled.
And this may be a little bit of an unfair question since you're so new on the council, but in your own mind, have you already started thinking, would you seek a second term regardless of whether it's 2 or 4 years?
Actually, I have not given it a thought because I'm too busy learning right now, but I don't think it would matter whether we go 2 years or 4 years.
The city council pay has not increased since 1947. There will be a proposition on the ballot to increase that from $42 a month to about $300 a month. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, back in 1947, the minimum wage was 75 cents. So $42 was a lot of money back then. And as we know, it hasn't changed since. So now with it going on the ballot in November, I believe that it's going to be up to the voters to decide if they want us to have more money or not. It will not make a difference on how I serve my constituents. I will continue to do the best that I can. So
I'm sorry.
Oh.
How many hours per week do you devote to your council service?
I will have to say that I am incomparable to the other council people, anywhere between 15 and 20 hours a week.
Any other priorities that you have for the rest of this year, your first year in office?
Well, I am on board with the 5 priorities that the council currently has, which is the water and the streets and the salaries and the development services and the police department. But I will be looking into within my district to see what needs improvement. I'll be listening to the constituents in that district and together coming up, developing priorities together.
We've been talking with Lucy Gonzales. She is the councilwoman for District 4, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of The City.